Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, 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 geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new edition of Geek to Me Radio. Tonight, we have the screenwriter of Event Horizon, Philip Eisner, will join us, talking about the 25th anniversary of that film and its legacy. Later on, we'll be talking with Bret Hoffman of Marcus Theaters, all about the upcoming movies that you will not want to miss. All that and more. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight listening to us on the Big 550 KTRS, hello to you. Thank you very much for listening. If you're tuning in after the fact in the podcast form, hello. Thank you very much. Hopefully you subscribed and left us a nice 5-star review. No video once again tonight. Joey V is out jet-setting on the World Series tour, taking in all those games, so I'm very proud of him and very glad that he's out there having the time of his life. Hopefully he'll be back with us in November because we've got some great guests coming up, and we're going to hopefully get some video back up. But in the meantime, if you're streaming us out there on the KTRS app or just listening to us live here on the radio, thank you very much. One of my very, very, very favorite horror films is Event Horizon. It came out 25 years ago. 1997, and I must have seen it 2 or 3 times at least in the theater. Very excited this Halloween Eve to bring you my interview with that movie's screenwriter, Philip Eisner. Right now we're talking with screenwriter of one of my very favorite horror movies, and it's a high horror / sci-fi, kind of like Nightmare Before Christmas. People debate if it's a Christmas or Halloween movie. A lot of people have this debate with Event Horizon, but the guy to clear it all up is the screenwriter himself, Philip Eisner. Philip, I appreciate your time today.
How are you?
Good, good. It's 25 years since this film came out, and I'm holding in my hands right now the Blu-ray copy that I just found on Amazon. I was thrilled to see it out on Blu-ray. VHS, back in the day, gave this film brand new life. When you think back, it's been 25 years. When you reflect back on this, what are your thoughts now, big picture, looking back on it?
Yeah, I'm extremely glad that it had a chance to find its audience. You know, there's a lot of great films that don't.
Yeah.
And, you know, Hollywood is not in the cult movie business. You know, it's good long term, but, you know, making money over 25 years, executives' tenures don't last 25 years. So that's not how they make decisions. I'm very, very glad that enough people found our film and I guess moved by it is the right word.
Yeah, no, it's hard to think because back in that time, I wasn't really paying attention. I wasn't in the mindset to pay attention to, how did the box office release in this? What were the numbers and everything like that? So obviously looking back as this kind of thing started to become more my realm, I was like, how did that movie not do as well? Because I think I went and saw it in the theaters 3 times on my own, brought friends every time. I got to give a shout out to my sister-in-law because Julie knows this is her very favorite movie as well. But it's one of those, I didn't realize it was considered, I'm using air quotes, a box office failure. Even though the cast, I mean, you've got Kathleen Quinn, you've got Sean Pertwee, Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill. Those names would bring people to the box office for just about anything now. And it's not like they weren't household names back then. When you look at this failure-wise, what do you think was the main attribution other than perhaps Paramount coming in and saying, cut 1/4 of the film away?
You know, I think I do think that's part of it. I think part of it, you know, it just kind of goes to what you were saying, is especially back then, it's like people will, and this is just one of those weird things. People go like, oh, science fiction. I remember this is years ago. I submitted a short story to, I guess, was it Starlog or Analog, and they rejected it. But in the note, they said, this isn't science fiction. Science fiction is optimistic. And my short story was not. And I was like, oh, so 1984 isn't science fiction. People impose these definitions. When you think of it, Paramount does Star Trek movies. But when you look at the Event Horizon poster, it's almost like, let's put a picture of the ship and hey, it's a gorgeous ship.
Yeah.
But it doesn't in any way imply the tone of what the audience is going to get. And so I think there are a lot of Star Trek fans who went to see Event Horizon and felt mugged, as opposed to this is on par with, this was absolutely a horror movie and it's absolutely a science fiction movie. The idea that it's got to be one or the other. But yeah, if you love Star Trek and you're wanting a Star Trek experience, we deliver that, except that we kill the crew of the Enterprise.
They were all red shirts. That was the problem.
Yeah, everyone's a red shirt. Exactly.
And I don't understand people not understanding the horror aspect, because it, as you alluded to the poster, gorgeous poster, the blank canvas of space with the ship right there in the foreground. It literally says infinite space, infinite terror. So I'm not sure how that's confusing at all for people looking at the poster.
I don't know. And I actually thought the trailer was pretty cool too.
Yeah.
The trailer is scary. You can't leave. She won't let you. It's got that in there.
And Sam Neill's delivery of that line too. I still get chills every time I just hear that line, hearing it in Sam Neill's voice. It was brilliant.
He's just so much fun. You couldn't have gotten a better cast for that film. It's just delightful. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is, there is this thing of, the horror genre is extremely strong and extremely durable.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you can make a really great horror film for $3 million.
Yeah.
We spent 50.
Right.
I think that's one of the factors that goes in. It's like, why is it a failure? And it's like, well, again, long term, it's not a failure. But, in the short term, if you spend 50 and then you spend another 30 on prints and advertising, and then you have an opening weekend of $9 million domestic, yeah, that's not good.
Right. And it was interesting because you mentioned that they turned your story down because it was not optimistic. And then when you look at the Star Trek universe now on Paramount Plus, it seems a little more dire and dismal and dark in many ways than looking at Star Trek The Next Generation or even Enterprise was. So I think the tone of sci-fi has changed. If anything, Event Horizon may have well been ahead of its time, looking at the measuring of the way things are now.
One of the things that I've always been drawn to horror in a weird way, it's honest. Mm-hmm. It's psychologically honest in mm-hmm. the sense that it says no, not everything is okay, and hopefully it provides you with the psychological equipment or the armor to deal with what life throws at you. I say that, and I'm also aware that sometimes you see films and that people who are going through things just get re-traumatized, and you just go, why did you see that film?
Yeah.
It's like when someone says like, oh, what'd you think of Irreversible? And it's like, it's brilliant. Will you ever see it again? No, I will never, ever see that movie again.
And that's so weird.
And anyone listening right now, if you're saying, should I see Irreversible? No, you shouldn't. If you're in the industry, if you're a director, yeah, you probably need to, because you need to see how he moves the camera, blah, blah, blah. It's Gaspar Noé, he's brilliant, yada, yada, yada. But man, you'll just want to scrub your soul afterwards.
And you mentioned rewatchability, which my listeners to the show will know. One of the big key things when I rate a movie is this a movie I would go back and watch again? Or did you see it the first time? May have been a great movie, but I don't really need to see the movie again, where there are other movies that I want to go back and see a second and third and even a fourth time. Event Horizon, like I said, I own it on VHS still to this day. And I just bought the Blu-ray copy because I can't get enough. It's a brilliant film. We actually had Sean Pertwee on the show a couple of years back when he was playing Alfred in Gotham. And I brought up, I think at the time it may have been the 20th anniversary. And I said, it's the 20th anniversary of Event Horizon. And he even said, I do not understand how that film does not get more love. So when you've even got the actors talking about what they thought was a brilliant film, it makes you a little more sad that the movie didn't do as well.
I mean, yes, but all right, it's like they're films that came out and there were flashes in the pan, right? 10 years later, no one's talking about them,
Mm-hmm.
and some of those films even won big statues,
right?
And it's like 25 years later, we're still talking with this film, and it's like, yeah. It didn't, I would say that, the people who have seen the film, the people who don't like it, and the people who do and are passionate about it. And it's, I'd kind of rather have that than oatmeal. Like, I like oatmeal. Yeah. I'll even eat oatmeal, but right. I don't remember every time I ate oatmeal.
That's a great point. That's a great way to put it.
Or like, if I was thinking of a TV series, it's like, I love TV. It's a golden age of TV, but I don't know how many series I'm like going, yeah, they're padding this out. Yeah, they're padding this out. And have you seen that? Oh yeah, I saw it. I forgot about it already. And then someone goes like, what do you think of brand new cherry flavor? I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe Netflix made something that brilliant. And it's kind of the same thing, which is like, they just went for it. They absolutely went for it. It's like, well, is this going to find its audience? I hope its audience finds it, but it's uncompromising. I mean, the only compromises I think that we made were with the running time, which, we were not given an option. That was something that that was a mandate coming from Paramount that Paul had to address. But besides that, that we were allowed to make an absolutely relentless horror film without worrying about, whether, is this too dark for the audience?
Yeah, it's one of those too that I would love to see the lost or cut footage, to see a director's cut, because one of the movies I always defend is Ben Affleck's Daredevil, because I say that and people are like, oh, you're kidding me. I said, no, look at the director's cut, and there's so much more that you get out of that, because this is what the director's original vision was. And I know it's on Wikipedia, so it has to be true, that Paramount came back because of how well the VHS sales have been going for Event Horizon. And Paramount begged, they said, oh, Paul, can you please do put all the found footage, and it either been lost or destroyed. Is there any rumor to A, did Paramount come back and say we want the longer cut, and B, was it actually destroyed, or was this just all internet make-believe?
I believe actually the stuff unfortunately is destroyed. I don't know if Paramount ever came back to Paul, but it's kind of typical. Like, they do the things and then the parts are sold off or dumped. I actually have somewhere, like, we've got some of the old VHS of the earlier cut, but to restore that, to bring it up to par and do that would be, at that point, Paramount should just, remake the film, for the cost that to take that old footage and try to recreate it. And also the issue too, I think it's I think Paul and Martin were never given the chance. Martin Hunter is the editor, to find like the natural breathing pace of the film. And I actually don't know that, for example, when everyone talks about the gore, it's like, well, I don't know that we'd actually see that much more gore than we actually have. Because if your brain is given a chance to acclimate to it, then it stops being disturbing.
Yeah.
One of the reasons it's so effective is because by the time your brain's like, what did I just see? It's on to something else.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's that incredible pace of cutting. So yeah, there might have been a little bit more, but really to me, it's that, we weren't able to, or rather, if you think the Event Horizon, the ship as a character is scary in the release cut, just imagine what Paul could have done. Just being able to have more shots of empty corridors and nothing going on, but it's just to build up that fear, that anticipation.
And that's one of
those,
a
lot of times that's what gets cut.
Yeah, and there was throughout the entire movie, because we do get some of those shots of just like when, once Sam Neill, that we realize he's been taken over by the I don't know if you want to call it the consciousness that was brought back with the ship or whatever it was. You kind of see some of those dark areas as they're kind of stalking each other throughout the ship, and you realize, it's like a haunted house. It's this vast, expansive, dark, you don't know what's around the next corner kind of feel, and it does because because it's outer space. But it's also contained in the ship. You do get kind of a sense of almost this foreboding, I don't want to say claustrophobia, but this kind of, you can feel the walls kind of closing in towards the climax of the movie, which was brilliantly done.
Well, yeah, actually, I think it is exactly a haunted house in space. I mean, that's completely what it is. And, I think that's very intentional. And kudos to the production designer for just creating a ship that felt, there's enough scientific looking things around there that you go like, well, maybe it's science, but it's like all I wrote in the script was, well, here's a passage to get you into the, take you to the gravity drive, and you've got to pass through like magnetic fields. I didn't say make it look like a tunnel of rotating knives. I mean, that's just freaking brilliant.
Yeah, no, that was
like, what's the science behind the rotating knives? It's like the science is it's really freaking scary to look at.
Yeah, it looks like something right out of Hellraiser. You're going through the hall and you're going to meet Pinhead at the other end. You know what's going to be at the other end waiting for you. How much, as a screenwriter, how much were you personally involved with the casting? Because there's on different productions, you always hear different stories from different people that, yes, I actually kind of, when we're writing this, I kind of envisioned Lawrence Fishburne in this role, or I kind of thought Sam Neill was the creator. Did you have much of a hand in the casting, or was that all kind of above you?
That was all above me.
Okay.
All above me. I actually don't, the only time I've ever written that way is when I've been doing a revision on something where casting was already in place. The rest of the time, I just kind of try to avoid it. Once cast is in place, then you can write to someone's strengths. But in all of this, it's again, it's like when we did this, I was already enormous fans. Obviously, Sam Neill, also Lawrence Fishburne. Coming off of Deep Cover, which is just an absolute masterpiece of noir. So, the minute that I think it was, that was Larry Gordon who said, what about Lawrence Fishburne? And I think all of us just were like, well, duh. I mean, everyone was like, will he do it?
Right.
That was absolutely, just brilliant casting. And then, getting Kathleen Quinlan was a gift. Sean, who's fantastic, Jason Isaac, who's gone on to be the smartest man in the world,
right,
in countless other films, and Jack and Richard and Jolie Richardson too, who obviously one of the toughest, as was pointed out. It's like, wait, that explosion, did that really catch her on fire? It's like, no, it didn't catch her on fire. It just almost caught her on
a light singe.
You do that with tuna, right? You just crisp the outside.
Right, exactly. It's a sear on the outside. That's all it is.
Yeah, she just got seared a little bit. Just
nothing bad.
A lightly seared Jolie Richardson.
And you've had so many great people attached to your projects too, because looking at the other items you've worked on, Firestarter 2, you had Malcolm McDowell and Dennis Hopper on that. Mutant Chronicles that you did, Thomas Jane, Ron Perlman, and Sean Pertwee. Then we've had Sean, and then we have Sweet Girl with Jason Momoa. You've always seemed to have these great talented people attached to your projects. With not having a hand in casting, to what would you attribute that?
I mean, I would love to take all the credit, but ultimately, I think sometimes people read something, with Jason read a script that I wrote with Greg Hurwitz, and he just absolutely responded to the story. The idea of, and someone, we've all seen the revenge story. What did they do to my wife and daughter? But in this case, it was someone going after people who technically haven't necessarily broken the law, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't break the companies that are making insulin, which, is not under any patent, right, and are just price gouging insulin. They're not breaking the law. They are not doing anything wrong. And if someone said, oh, that executive who was price gouging insulin, someone just murdered them, I would go, wow, that is against the law. They should be convicted. You are sentenced to picking up the garbage for one day and fined $1. And here's a pat on the back. I mean, seriously, I mean, these are a bunch of people that I don't know how they, and it's not just in big pharma, but there's just a raft of people out there that I think it is that act in defiance of sort of any acceptable morality. Mm-hmm. But because it's not technically violent crime, it's not illegal for them to ruin lives. Yeah. And I think Jason reacted to that in the same way that, all of us, anyone who thinks of those stories. And I think that's what, how he responded to Sweet Girl. So that's specific to I think, to Jason, but also in other cases, we're also talking about like when you go back to Firestarter 2, I'm sure, which was, it was a great experience for me because I got to have pancakes with Malcolm McDowell, which I got to tell you, like when people think, what's the best experience? I'm like spinning, what was just it started off as just a wave because we were both in the hotel at the same time. And I waved at him and then we ended up sitting down together and it ended being like a 2-hour conversation, and it was just him telling stories, which are just like, he's a great storyteller.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic. But, a lot of time, and he really dug, he was talking about the character and what he really liked about it and the whole, the whole messed up obsession that his character has for Charlie. He really got into it. And then you've got Dennis Hopper. I think with Dennis Hopper, there's an opening in his schedule. Right. He's not shooting anything right now. This is what he does for a living. He looks at so he's like, yeah, I'll do this. And I remember when we did the cast read through, he says like, because it's a character who I don't want to seeing the future as wrong. It's sort of, he experiences time very similar to Dr. Manhattan. It's all happening all at once. And the character is written that way. And he had this great comment, which is like, I don't understand my character, but I don't think I'm supposed to.
That's acting.
Great. Yeah. But also, and he played it that way. He played it absolutely straight. He hit the marks. He said the lines, I'm not going to come with you. Well, that's what you say, but that's not what you do. And he walks out the door and she follows him because, he is a fly trapped in amber. He knows he's going to die. He can't change his fate. He has no free will. He totally nailed it. But if you go like, oh, was he drawn to that role? I'm like, I don't know that he was particularly drawn to the role. But it's also an example of sometimes I think with a lot of people, especially when you're dealing with stars, obviously they saw something they liked because nobody does something. A lot of, the people that whose names can actually get your film made, mm-hmm. You're not paying them to say dialogue that they don't want to say. They're not going to say anything they don't want to say.
Right.
So you've done something that, you're trying to make the role as interesting as possible for someone to jump in and do this. And sometimes that means they're a hero and sometimes that means they're a villain. I remember he ended up not doing the role, but, I met Willem Dafoe once for a film that was in pre-production. And he said something that I thought was so important, which is his part did not need to be large, but it needed to be pivotal.
Kind of no small actors, just small part, no small parts, just small actors, kind of a mindset.
Very similar, but it was also a thing of, and it was just awareness. I'm Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
I'm both a movie star and a character actor. I have no problem doing a small role, but I can't do a role which is incidental to a story.
Yeah.
I can't do a cameo. I have to be doing a role that is vital to the plot. And that was really worthwhile to bear in mind when I think, especially for people listening to this who are, screenwriters or directors are trying to put stuff together in the indie world and you're trying to go to casting. It's like sometimes, and I've read things where it's like, oh, wouldn't it be great to get a cameo for this role? And it's like, it's nice to get a cameo for that role, but unless that person is a friend of yours, I always think of all the cameos that were in The Player, and people go like, all these movie stars did the cameos in The Player. And it's like, yeah, for Robert Altman. Right. It's like, of course you're going to do a cameo for Robert Altman. It's like, but unless Tom Cruise is your uncle, he's not going to do a cameo. In fact, even if he is your uncle, it's not that he wouldn't do he might do a small role because Tom Cruise is like, he supports film, but he ain't going to do a small role that's a cameo. He still needs to be like vital.
You always hear of stories of actors taking parts. It's like, I don't care about any of that. I'm still going to take this part because they love the project or whatever. But yeah, I think William Dafoe's mindset, I mean, he's Willem Dafoe. So yeah, I can see where he's got that. I know we've just got a few minutes here with you left. So obviously, I don't know if anything can top Pancakes with Malcolm McDowell, but was there a moment during Event Horizon with any of the actors or something between you and Paul that you'll always kind of cherish that one little memory of that project?
Oh, well, actually, I've got two. And, the first one was they're very similar. Once I was walking through the set, and they were doing tests with the spacesuits in the wire rigs. Mm-hmm. So I'm walking through a set, and the spacesuits were wildly uncomfortable. They were like, all the weight is in the back in those backpacks, and I think they must have weighed like, I don't know, 60, 70 pounds, and not weighted to be comfortable to stand in. But anyway, I'm just walking through the set, and I'm just, I'm trying not to gawk because, for the rest of the crew, this is the job. This is day to day. For me as the writer, being on the set and walking around, I'm like, it'd be the equivalent to being from the middle of a small town in Kansas and being wandering around New York City, right? Yeah. I'm just like looking at the wires and looking at the lights and looking at, oh my God, there's the movie stars and they're wearing the spacesuits, and I'm trying not to stare. I'm trying to like blend, like, oh yeah, this is Tuesday, man. This is like nothing. So I'm just trying to like breeze through the set while paying attention to everything. And all of a sudden, this voice just booms across the set, and I hear, Eisner, and I turn. There's Lawrence Fishburne with the helmet off, and there's a grip supporting him so that he doesn't fall over. And he's just looking at me and pointing and says, you did this to me. And the other story, which is similar, is when I first came out to work on pre-production, they say, oh, Paul's waiting for you. He's on set. So I go out to the set, and all I see, this is in the Bond stage, which is huge. All I see is like 5 stories of scaffolding. And I'm like, where's Paul? It's like, oh, Paul's at the top. He's checking something with Adrian Biddle, who's the DP. So I climb up the 5 flights of scaffolding, and I'm jet lagged and scaffolding, and I'm exhausted, and it's cold in there because it's not heated or anything. And so you got your whole breath steaming. I get to the top. I come to the top, and I'm looking down into the gravity drive with the spikes, and they've got the fluids there, and the ball wasn't there, but the rings were. Mm-hmm. And there's Paul in a parka talking with Adrian. He sees me, waves me over, and I'm like, yeah. And he says, I just wanted to show you this. I'm looking. It's like you did this. And it's really it's still probably one of the most generous moments I've had in the film business.
That had to have been an amazing moment. Does that mean to be looking down on what you basically created, brought to life right there on the stage. That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was. It really was. And it was very sweet of him too, because I mean, I started the process, but films, unless you're Robert Rodriguez, films do take a lot of people. That's not my production design. The casting, everything. I mean, it took, Adrian Biddle's lighting, the sound design, everything. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of work goes into film. So it was the writers get credit for starting things, but it takes a lot of people to actually get them finished.
And there's a reason we're still talking about the movie 25 years later. It originally was released on August 15th, 1997 here in the States. And now, as I just mentioned, you can get it on Blu-ray. We're going to give away a copy to one lucky winner, so stand by for that. If people want to keep up with you, website, social media handles, are you active online?
I kind of get myself in trouble on Twitter. I'm at Fubar, Phubar. Like way too much, not enough on screenwriting and way too much liberal politics, but still, don't hold that against me.
There you go. Absolutely brilliant to talk to you. Like I said, truly, this movie, I see new horror movies all the time, and never once has anything knocked Event Horizon out of my top 5 favorite horror movies of all time. So kudos to a fantastic job that, like you said, may not have won awards, may not have done good at the box office, but it has stood the test of time. It's referenced in a lot of pop culture things that we're seeing now still. And it's something that I know many people are talking about. Every time I tweet something about Event Horizon, I get a ton of retweets and likes on that, and people say how much they enjoy the film. So kudos to you, and thank you again for your time today.
Thank you so much.
There he goes, Philip Eisner. Appreciate his time. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back and chat more movies with Bret Hoffman of Marcus Theaters, telling you about all the ones you need to see that are out in theaters now and the ones that are coming that you won't want to miss. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
Hi, this is Dean Devlin, director of Bad Samaritan, and you are listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back. Geek to Me Radio, heard here on the Big 550 KTRS every Sunday night. No video tonight, unfortunately. Joey V is off working on the World Series Grand Tour. We'll hopefully have video back here in November once that's all wrapped up and finalized. Very, very quickly, I want to make sure we tell you about our official comic book sponsor, Bugs Comics and Games. BugsComicsandGames.com is the website. Check them out if you're looking for a new comic book store. If you maybe your comic book store went out of business, or maybe you are out there in the world, not in the greater St. Louis area, and your comic book store closed because of COVID, make Bugs your local comic book store. Even if you're going online, he's got a lot of great variant issues, a lot of back issues. He's constantly buying comics, so you're always seeing a new influx on the website. Check them out. And, of course, give their Facebook page a like, Bugs Comics and Games on Facebook as well. Just celebrated their 1-year anniversary this weekend with some great sales, and I saw a lot of people on social media posting some very happy faces with their purchases that they made at Bugs Comics. You could be that happy, too. Join the Avengers Club for a discount on all your weekly comics, games, supplies, back issues, new issues, all that good stuff. Go to the website. Once again, Bugs Comics and Games. If you're local in the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area, check them out on Bryan Road out there in O'Fallon, Missouri. Bugs Comics and Games. Very proud to have them as the official comic book sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. My next guest, I love talking movies with this gentleman more than just about any other person I've ever spoken movies with. He's always well-informed, and I think we share a lot of the same taste in movies, which always helps. Bret Hoffman of Marcus Theaters is back on the show with us. Bret, how are you?
James, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Sorry, no video this time. It's always a disappointment because you've always got great posters behind you that make me terribly jealous. But we're doing it old school over just the phone for right now, and you've got some good movies to talk with us about.
Oh, most certainly. It's the time right now where things are heating up and we're going right into the holiday season. There are more than a few good selections that everyone's going to enjoy the next couple of weeks and months.
And I know one of the movies that's out right now is Black Adam. Just if you're not getting enough of your comic book movie, Phil, people, Black Adam. This one has been a while in the making. I know with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock has been cast in this role, I think, almost 10 years ago, and we're finally getting to see the movie.
Oh, yeah, and I'll tell you this much. If you haven't gone and seen this movie, go give it a chance, because I tend to agree with most of the audience reviews in this film, which have been stellar. The audience reviews in Rotten Tomatoes are 90%. The critics were at 39%, and I don't know why, because I thought there was a lot of solid action here. And standalone films featuring characters that not many in the general public know, they're always a little bit challenging. But I thought this was a really fun start to a character. We have Black Adam now firmly inserted into the on-screen DC storylines, and hopefully we'll see more to come from Dwayne Johnson and Black Adam. What do you think, James?
This is one I didn't get to see yet, unfortunately. Warner Brothers didn't provide a screener for this one, and we've been busy with the Halloween Festival out in St. Charles, so sadly I did not get to see it. I will say, however, I am a huge fan of the Justice Society, and DC Comics fans will know who that is and how they factor into Black Adam and his history with DC Comics. Aldous Hodge as Hawkman. I played Dean Devlin coming back from break. Dean Devlin, obviously, of Bad Samaritan and Independence Day, but he also did a great show called Leverage featuring Aldous Hodge as the hacker of his group. And Aldous Hodge plays Hawkman, and from what I've heard, he did a really great job as well.
Yeah, I'd say the movie was great, and it has enough twists to really keep it going and keep it interesting. Check it out. Hope you can check it out. Hope all your listeners who haven't seen it can check it out, because I really think it's a solid film that people will enjoy.
Yeah, it's on my list to do this week for sure. I don't want to be behind the eight ball and have people talking about it and spoil it for me. So I'm definitely going to get out and see it as soon as I can. I'm going to get tickets. I think my wife and I are going to go check it out at the Ronnie's Theater. And we've got another one, Ticket to Paradise, which reunites George Clooney and, of course, Julia Roberts. This is probably their fifth movie together?
Well, it's been a little while, but we'll finally get some date night rom-coms to return back to the big screen. And thanks very much to Universal Pictures for bringing us this content. And I think audiences are really responding. This one should have legs for the next couple of weeks. Roberts and Clooney have a lot of chemistry together. And I think this one's just great because audiences out there really want to go on dates together. Sometimes they don't want to go see big blockbusters or action films. They want a rom-com, and it's been a little while since we've had one on screen. So I'd recommend to anyone, if you're not looking for a superhero movie or an action film or a traditional blockbuster, Ticket to Paradise would be a great pick for a dinner and a movie night out.
They were talking about, I know, with when Bros was out, that Bros was presented as kind of a air quotes, rom-com, but then a lot of people were saying that's why it doesn't work because the rom-com is dead. That's a 90s thing. As honestly, as one of the fans, I will admit to this, I'm a fan of romantic comedies. I like Sandra Bullock and Miss Congeniality. I liked the one that she was just in with Tatum Channing and Daniel Radcliffe. I thought that was a fun one. So I think this is that perfect movie. I think when you see horror movies like Smile and Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, and then you've got the big blockbusters like Black Adam out there, rom-coms are almost a bit of a palate cleanser, especially this time of year.
Well, there's plenty of genres out there, and everyone has their own taste for what they like. And I would say this, there is always a need for people to want to go on dates or just see funny movies. You know, see it with your spouse, see it with a date, see it with a bunch of friends. So I think it's great. I think we need all movies represented at the box office.
Yeah.
It's just been a little while. We haven't had many of these come out, and I think this is proving that there is a spot for them, and hopefully we'll get more released by the studios.
Hopefully so. And for ones that are coming up very quickly, I know I kept, when I'd open up the Marcus Theaters app on my smartphone, I'd see, hey, tickets are now available for Wakanda Forever, the sequel to Black Panther. Sadly, we lost Chadwick Boseman, and every time I was watching one of those what ifs on Disney Plus that was released posthumously and hear Chad Boseman still doing the voice for Black Panther, I'd honestly tear up a little bit. And the movie is going on without Chadwick Boseman, so it'll be interesting to see. But I think this movie has gotten more buzz than just about any movie I can remember for the entire course of 2022.
Yeah, it's getting huge buzz. In fact, one of the debates right now is which movie will make more money. Is it going to be Avatar: The Way of Water, or is it going to be Black Panther: Wakanda Forever? I am really looking forward to this film. I think people have been a little down on Marvel films since their latest batch of releases. But I would say, except for the Eternals, they've really been doing better than what people perceive. Because if you look at Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness, it made $411 million domestically. You look at Thor: Love and Thunder this summer, it made $343 million domestically. And what people don't remember is Thor Ragnarok in 2017 only made $315 million.
Yeah.
So it made more than Thor Ragnarok. And none of these are failures at the box office. $411 million and $343 million are not failures at the box office. And now look at what's ahead. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever in November. We've got Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania in February, and then we have Guardians of the Galaxy 3 in May. There is going to be a run here of some dynamite Marvel product, and the first one out of the gate is Wakanda Forever. We've got an antagonist here with the Submariner, which I think everyone is looking forward to. And Disney has been rather tight to the chest about everything that's going on, including who's behind that mask. Black Panther right now. But I think that's great. I think we'll do dynamite business. And the only question is, which one will do more business, I think? Is it going to be November Black Panther, or is it going to be Avatar in December?
Well, if I was a betting man, I'd say Black Panther, because you got the built-in Marvel people, you got the people who are curious about what it's going to be post Chadwick Boseman, and honestly, I'm not hearing. It takes nothing away from Avatar or how good of a movie it is. I'm not hearing that same buzz for Avatar that I am for Wakanda Forever. Are you seeing that too?
Well, here's the deal. I'm not hearing that much buzz about it too, and I think there's a lot of people that are discounting The Way of Water, but you got to remember that it's been quite some time. And if you go back to 2019, no one saw the Avatar phenomenon coming.
Sure.
In fact, I can tell you, after the first screenings of the movie, no one predicted it to do this well. In fact, many said this will make a few $100 million. No one thought it would be the phenomenon it would. They called it Dances with Wolves in Space. They didn't see the attraction. And boy, were they wrong. I mean, the movie did $785 million domestically. It's done $2.9 billion worldwide. And I'll tell you this, I really think James Cameron can deliver. I'm not counting them out because they said this about the first one. Now, granted, that was well over a decade ago. But if you've seen the initial trailer footage, you really hopefully saw it in a theater in 3D. Because if you just saw it on a computer screen or you just saw it in 2D even at a theater, you didn't get a look at the immersive world that he's creating. I know a lot of people don't like 3D, but this is a movie you should see in 3D. Cameron has filmed the whole thing to be purposefully immersive in 3D. And just like the first one, I think this is going to be one of these movies where even people that don't like the 3D format, they're going to love watching this one in there. So don't count him out. I'm betting big on Avatar: The Way of Water just because the first time around everyone got fooled, and look how well it did. Theaters were selling out Avatar, the original Avatar, until March of the following year, and it was released during the holiday period as well. So don't count them out, but I would say it is a close horse race between Black Panther and Avatar this holiday season.
And I know one of the ones that I'm really looking forward to, it kind of caught me off guard because I hadn't heard a lot about it. And then I saw when the trailer dropped, and I was like, oh my goodness, the cast on this, the plot on this. And that is coming up here on the 18th. The Menu, I think, is going to take a lot of. There's always a movie late in the year, every year, that I end up loving. One time it was Ready or Not. One time it was Bad Times at the El Royale. Last year was Last Night in Soho. This movie of this year, I think it's going to be on my top 10 movie list, is going to be The Menu.
Well, I'd say it's not on the radar for many, but it really should be. This has been screened for a lot of people, including me, and I'm not allowed to get into specifics of the content I saw, but I can tell everyone and point you to the current 87% critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's really a fun movie. It's about a group of people. They travel to this island to eat in an exclusive restaurant where there's this renowned chef. He's played by Ralph Fiennes. He prepares this lavish menu and this outstanding experience. Now, of course, when they're there, there's a bit of a surprise as to what's going to happen. And Anya Taylor-Joy and Nicholas Hoult, they star as the main couple amongst all the dining patrons. But the film definitely hits a few nerves and will leave you uneasy in a good way. So look this one up. Check out the trailer so you can get a feel for this. But this is one that I'm really recommending to everyone because it really is a special film that everyone should go try out.
Absolutely. That's definitely going to be one that I think, like I said, just based on what I've seen, it's easily going to be one of my top 10 movies. I'll be shocked if it ends up not being, so who knows? We'll see how it goes. I'm going to take another quick commercial break. Brett, are you okay to stick with me, yes?
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect. If you're listening right now, we've got Bret Hoffman on from Marcus Theaters. Make sure you download the Marcus Theaters app for your smartphone so you don't miss prompts for these movies that are coming out. Buying your tickets right there on the app, heading straight to the movie, get your concessions online for a more contactless experience. One of the many, 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 many perks of having your movies at Marcus Theaters. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come right back and chat more movies with Bret Hoffman at Marcus Theaters. You're listening to Geek Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
Hello, this is Jim Cummings, and this is Hondo Naka. Don't move an inch. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio, and I will be checking on you.
We are back. Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. I'm your host, James Enstall. I want to make sure we tell you about our official premier sponsor, the people who have kept us on the air since the beginning when we launched in 2016, the City of St. Charles, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. Longtime listeners will know the website Marcus Theaters. I'm sorry. Let me try. Marcus Theaters is my guest. I'm currently speaking with Bret Hoffman. The website, it's been a long weekend, folks. The website for the City of St. Charles is discoverstcharles.com. That's Discover St. Charles. They just wrapped up their big Halloween festival, and the character Baba Yaga hands off the key to the city to Santa Claus 26 days until their big Christmas Traditions Festival launches. And if you had a good time at Halloween visiting with the likes of Lizzie Borden and the Queen of Hearts and singing karaoke with the Phantom of the Opera and exchanging stories with Edgar Allan Poe and the Brothers Grimm, wait till Christmas. 26 days. It starts the day after Thanksgiving. You can carol up and down the street. You can get chestnuts and wassail from local vendors. You can shop these small businesses. You can go and decorate trees. You can see the Christmas Tree Museum. You can have breakfast for dinner with Krampus. All these fun things to do. Check out the website, and that's discoverstcharles.com to plan your trip. If you're coming from out of town, you're going to want to come and stay there maybe a weekend. Lots of great places to stay as well. If you're in town and want to check out a movie while you're there, there's a Marcus Theaters in St. Charles as well. It's a one-stop shop for everything. Once again, if you're planning to come in or if you're here locally, start your trip at the website, which is, of course, discoverstcharles.com for the best movie-going experience in the galaxy. Talking with Bret Hoffman of Marcus Theaters for just this last 10 minutes or so that we have here of the hour. So many great movies coming out. One of the ones I'm very excited about, and I think a lot of people are, is the sequel to Knives Out, which is Glass Onion, starring, once again, Daniel Craig.
Yeah, and this one's an interesting one because, as we all know, Netflix paid $450 million for the rights to have the next two Knives Out films. But interestingly, they are going to release Knives Out 2, Glass Onion. They're going to release that in select theaters during Thanksgiving week. So check that out. It's going to come out to theaters, and I think it's going to be really interesting. Around St. Louis, it's playing at Chesterfield and Ronnie's that Thanksgiving week. And I would tell people it's at select theaters. So if you really want to go see this one and you want to go see it maybe the Wednesday before Thanksgiving or on Black Friday, get your tickets now. What we're all looking at from this point of view is, what will the success of a film like this do? And will this have Netflix considering different release patterns for some of their films that they're releasing on streaming? So the success of this special one-week-only theatrical engagement will certainly be looked at closely by everyone in the industry. But Daniel Craig returns. I love the first one. I think you did too. So yes. Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. It should be great, and it's exclusively in theaters for that Thanksgiving week until it gets released later in December for streaming.
And I can't believe we're talking about this already, Bret, because we're talking about Thanksgiving and the holiday season coming up. It's hard to believe we're already at the end of 2022. It blew by so quick. But one of the ones, everyone loves Christmas movies. Everyone's got their favorite Christmas movie, whatever that might be. But I am looking forward, like all get out, to Violent Night with David Harbour from Stranger Things and Hellboy fame.
If anyone hasn't seen this trailer, they have to. Let's just say this much. The tagline is season's beatings, and you know it's not your typical holiday release.
Yes.
David Harbour, he actually plays the real Santa Claus in this film, but of course it's like Santa you've never seen before. He's thrust into action. He's sent to kick some serious rear end when a group of mercenaries attack the estate of a wealthy family on Christmas, and he happens to be around the house. So thanks to Universal for giving us this really fun title between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It should be really fun to watch, and I'm really looking forward to this one. It comes out on December 2nd. So check out Santa like you've never seen him before in this movie, Violent Night.
And I can't think of a better person than David Harbour for this particular role. It's the trailer's hilarious. It looks great. I think it tells you exactly what you're going to get, and it is exactly what I'm looking forward to getting. I think it's going to be brilliant. I know as we approach Christmas, these biopics with the singers and everything has been kind of a thing. We saw Bohemian Rhapsody. We saw the Rocket Man was kind of a little bit of a different thing from Bohemian Rhapsody, but we've got I Want to Dance with Somebody, which looks very intriguing.
Yeah, I think this film will definitely have its voice during the holiday season. I think it's going to overperform. And I think what Bohemian Rhapsody was for Queen, I Want to Dance with Somebody will be for Whitney Houston. Just a fitting tribute to this star who was more so the fabric of the music during the time than most realize. And her life with, it had ups and downs. It had enough drama to certainly make a script for Hollywood. Check out this one. I think it's going to overperform. And I think there are a lot more Whitney Houston fans out there than they even know because I think everyone's going to love this film. And when you really listen to your catalog, you'll realize how many hits she had.
Yeah, and I'm an 80s music kid, so that's one of the ones I loved, Rocket Man, for all the different songs we heard from that. So I'm sure I will have just as much love and affinity for this particular film on Whitney Houston. And then right around the corner, we're already in 2023. One of the ones I saw that looked very intriguing was A Man Called Otto. This is Tom Hanks in a role that I think 10 or 15 years ago might have possibly gone to Jack Nicholson, because it has that kind of same feeling that you get when you watch As Good as It Gets or About Schmidt, where the guy kind of softens as the movie goes. What are your thoughts on A Man Called Otto?
Well, you're right. I could see Nicholson playing this role. It's going to play in some theaters in New York and L.A. at the end of the year, so it can be nominated for some awards. And when you really watch the trailer or watch the footage, you'll see this is probably going to be an awards-worthy film. Tom Hanks, he's this grumpy widower who gets surprised when a young family moves in, and it leads to an unexpected friendship. The footage looks tremendous. It looks funny, and it looks very uplifting. It looks like a sweet film as well. Tom Hanks is good in virtually everything he does, so expect his performance to be right on par. But check out A Man Called Otto. It is really doing well from a response and engagement standpoint on social media, and I think people will love it. That comes out January 13th.
We've got some big budget ones that I know are coming up, like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, the third movie in the Ant-Man trilogy. We're going to get Super Mario Brothers movie coming out. Obviously, Chris Pratt, another Marvel alum, voicing Mario from that one. There are some other ones that I feel like there's always movies that, because we got these big tentpole movies, don't get as much notification, and some of them should. We've got a third Creed movie and another John Wick movie coming out in 2023 as well.
Yeah, that's right. And Creed 3, no Stallone, and Michael B. Jordan's behind the camera. So there certainly is some changes for that franchise. How many times can you go to the boxing movie? The answer is probably a lot. And I think in this case, there's more enthusiasm for these boxing movies, which are fiction, than actually real boxing itself.
Yeah.
The trailer's out. I think the storyline is good. I think Jordan will do great behind the camera as well. And I've enjoyed every single one of them, and I'm a huge Rocky fan as well. So I think this one will be no different.
It'll be a different feeling without Stallone there, because that's kind of his, it's his thing, the Rocky movies. So this will be interesting. Do you think that will help or hurt it without having Stallone attached in any way?
Well, I think that was always the plan, and I think this is great. We're kind of departing. We're going in our own direction, and we'll certainly see what this franchise holds. But when this first came out, did people really think there'd be 3 of these? Probably not.
Yeah.
So I see some more life in Creed. I see some more life just in the franchise in general, and we'll see about that. And, you also referenced John Wick 4, which, interesting stat, John Wick seems to have doubled its gross every movie out. The first John Wick did about $40 million. The second John Wick did $90 million. The third John Wick did $171 million. So, to me, I'm not questioning whether John Wick 4 is going to be a good movie by Lionsgate. I'm really questioning how much will it make. And I don't know if it can double $171 million, but I'll tell you, each and every film has grown in terms of the audience that is going to see these movies and that are enthralled by it. And I'm looking forward to what Keanu delivers, and that's coming out in March of next year.
It'll be interesting to see because this is the first John Wick movie released post-COVID. So I wonder how that will impact the total box office take.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. But obviously, I think that's a great one. And otherwise, I will say, you mentioned Mario, and I'm telling everyone, whatever you were going to bet on Super Mario Brothers, the Super Mario Brothers movie, double it and then double it again, because I am just absolutely jazzed about that movie. If people have seen the trailer, the animation looks just great. You've got a great cast there. You got Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach. You've got Charlie Day as Luigi. You got Jack Black as Bowser. And don't worry about Chris Pratt as Mario. I guarantee you, once you get into this film, everyone's going to enjoy it. Universal wants to make this into a franchise with many, many sequels, and they've also got some new lands at their theme parks that they want basically to help push with this. So I think Universal is taking extra care with this film. What we've seen so far is phenomenal. Look for this just to be absolutely amazing. And it's the type of film that has a lot of people that can go see it. My 6-year-old son is definitely a fanatic about Mario. He plays all the games and plays them better than I do on our Switch. And then you go into people like me and even older that grew up with an original 8-bit Nintendo Entertainment System and grew up on Mario. When you think of all the people that have the potential to go see this movie, I think it's going to do tremendous, and I see many more things coming from Super Mario Brothers and Universal down the road.
It's been a good time. We need another good video game movie out, and I think Super Mario Brothers is going to fill that void for everybody out there. As we wrap up here, Bret, tell everybody where they can find you if they want to keep up with you, follow you online, and hear more about what it is you do.
Yeah, well, check us out on MarcusTheaters.com. You can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And also check out our content now on TikTok. We've got a great TikTok channel. It's run by our social media specialist, Mackenzie, and she's got actually some great footage right now with her and Greg Marcus that is just absolutely hilarious. So check us out on all the social channels. Check us out on MarcusTheaters.com. And we'd love to see you at our theaters for all of these great films coming up for November, December, and well into 2023.
Absolutely. It's always a good time to see a movie and always a good time to do it in the best possible surroundings, and Marcus Theaters will give you exactly that. Bret, as always, it's a joy to talk to you about movies. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday tonight.
We'll see you, James. Have a great one,
Take
everyone.
care. Be well. There he goes. My thanks to both Bret Hoffman and Philip Eisner for their time. That's it. We're going to wrap it up. We're back next week with another live show. Until then, my friends.
That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Infinite Space. Good night.
Hey kids, are your parents about to buy you a shiny new toy from Amazon?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Well, don't be selfish. Share some of that money with us. Before going on Amazon, make sure to type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser. It will look just like Amazon.com, except it'll say referral Geek to Me Radio up top. And then when you check out, a tiny percentage will go to support the show without costing you 1 cent more. So before your parents get you that gizmo, gadget, or widget, make sure they type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser.
Bit.ly/geek2me. Bit.ly/geek2me.